You guys have processed over $100 million worth of tax credits.
Yes.
And what has been some of the things you've learned?
So a few things. If you don't have a good team around you, you're just going to spin your wheels. We wanted to give the American public basically a vessel. We set it up similar to like TurboTax. TurboTax.
How would a guy like me though, who has like LLCs and stuff?
Depends on how you are taxed, right? And it depends on how you are paid out of that LLC. But we got into amazing strategic partnerships where we just verify your identity and we pull all of the data we need directly from the IRS.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so we're getting hard and fast verified data.
People don't even have to submit anything to you.
No.
Oh.
They just have to verify their identity and go through some little bit of know your customer checks.
Yeah.
And that's it. And it's all free to check.
What's up, Wealth Builders? Today, I've got a lawyer who specializes in helping entrepreneurs, self-employed people get tax credits. And he's actually processed over $100 million worth of tax credits that you might be eligible for. I've got Ryan Umina. What's up, man?
What's up, Ryan? Man,
Yeah.
thanks so much for having us today.
Yeah, dude. So you guys came on one of my one-on-one calls and started telling me about this tax credit thing that you guys have been doing for people on like sick and family leave and then self-employed people. And I was like, man, this is kind of crazy. Like I've never even heard of this for myself. And
Yeah.
I've heard about a lot of things.
Yeah, that's right. And I'll tell you, there was a time where I knew nothing about, let's call it the tax credit industry, right? And how I came into this industry and how this all came to be. So kind of the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, first big business. I started my own law firm, a few years out of law school, did really well in the first year. And I hired a bunch of people. And that was January, February of 2020.
Okay.
And we staffed up. I mean, quickly, I've been a law firm. I thought I'd be like writing manuals and such my first year. Next thing you know, we've got 6-7 lawyers in there, staff, and really just blowing up quickly. Boom.
What were you guys doing at that time?
So I do a pretty wide range of things. So criminal defense, significant injury and death cases. And then we do a pretty good bit of civil rights as well.
Yeah.
We've really done some significant things in the civil rights area that we're very proud of. Really brought about a lot of change. And yeah, so, hire all these people, kept everyone employed during COVID. It was very important to us. And, obviously that hurt. And, but it was important, right? It was important to us. It was important to me. And fast forward, it's like 2023 and I'm meeting with an insurance agent and they're like, have you heard about the employee retention credit?
Yep. That's the ERC stuff that was around for a long time.
Exactly. And no, right? And so I'm introduced to a gentleman out in Northern California who was very early on in that. And when I came to understand the program, I was like, wow, there's a ton of value in this, right? Like I'm a pretty sophisticated consumer and I would happily allow you, this company to do the work. And, if I'm able to recover something, they get, some back end fee on that. I don't have to come out of pocket at all. And I was like, wow, there's tremendous value in this. And so, I tell that gentleman who became my co-founder in this company, I said, I'm pretty entrepreneurial. If anything like this ever comes up, give me a call. I think this is great. I'd love to tell people. So he reaches out to me a couple weeks later and he said, hey, there's these other tax credits and it's for self-employed people. It's all from the same legislation, the FFCRA. And the FFCRA, these multi-billion-dollar or trillion.
What does that even mean? FFCRA?
The Family First Coronavirus Response Act.
Okay.
Right. So that was one of the big pieces of legislation. And then you had the CARES Act and these other, kind of related pieces of legislation that expanded these. But a lot of these spending bills or, the thing that the government was doing to help offset all of this, it was in the form of tax credits, right? And these tax credits, though, they're refundable. Meaning if the person or the business has no outstanding tax liability, they just get a check back once it's processed.
Was that because I remember getting the PPP loan and just getting a big check and it was just free.
Yeah, very, 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 all in that same group of legislation.
Yeah.
And, these were the things that were super helpful. So the credits for sick and family leave, overwhelmingly, it's applying to the people who, they probably didn't have a bunch of employees, and they probably, and the PPP was very tied to your
employees.
Exactly. And so is the ERC, right? And so with this is just based on if a person who is self-employed, now that's a broad term. You got to think like Schedule C, Schedule SE income. And so you have sole proprietors, owners of LLCs that are taxed in certain ways. And then a ton of anyone that's, so many 1099 contractors. If someone doesn't have taxes withheld from their check, they're a sole proprietor.
Yeah.
Most of them don't understand that. So every Uber driver, every, a lot of people that are caterers, I always say, kind of every business that you see at a wedding, those are all self-employed people, the caterer, the DJ, the photographer,
realtors,
and on and on and on, right?
House flippers even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you're talking total 40 to 80 million Americans. And when you break that down in the workforce, it's like, what is that? 1 out of 5, 1 out of 7 people?
And I think it's only going up as people become more entrepreneurial and this gig economy and side hustles and all this stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And so, what these credits and how they operate are, you have the sick leave credit. And the sick leave credit is extremely broad. It is, did you have COVID? Were there government shutdowns to your business? A diagnosis where you had to quarantine and on and on. And then the family leave credit is people who had schools that were shut down, babysitters that were shut down, kid has to quarantine, kid has COVID. And so on the sick leave credit, it has a maximum value of $511 per day. And for 2021, it's broken out the first quarter of 21, second 2 quarters combined of 21. So you have 20 total days, $511 a day max. And then for the...
so it's like 10K.
Yeah, a little over that. And then the family leave credit, you have 50 days and 60 days in the 2 periods. So 110 total days, maximum $200 a day.
So it's like 20-ish grand.
Correct.
Okay.
So $32,220 is the maximum benefit. And
for those who qualify.
Correct.
Okay.
And for our customer base, the average is about 5,000. About 5,000.
How do you prove it?
Okay, so on the sick leave days, those you have to actually state the days that you missed, right? Now the IRS doesn't require.
If you're self-employed, you just work at home and stuff. Like,
yeah.
Did I choose not to go on my computer or what?
No, so it can't be telework. It can't be telework. No. It has to be you couldn't work, right?
You couldn't be an Uber driver. You couldn't.
Correct.
Go physically be a caretaker or whatever.
I'll tell you one of the biggest industries, the beauty industry.
Yeah, haircuts, masseuse,
nails, all that. They're almost all of those businesses are set up to where if they're not the owner, they're paying a chair rental. They're getting 1099.
Yep,
and massively hit. And then a lot of a lot of ladies in the beauty industry, a lot of them have children. Schools are shut down. This is shut down. And even if they're in a two parent household, oftentimes it's them having to miss work rather than their partner, right? And so those, all of these people, right? This is what Congress created to offset that. And, the reason that we're really getting out here right now and want people to really know is there is a deadline coming up for about half of people, maybe a little over half, because the deadline to claim these credits is 3 years from when they filed the original return. But if they filed prior to tax day, so prior to April 15th, but I think it might've been the 18th that year, they have 3 years from tax day. But all the people that filed extensions, which was about 37% of Schedule C filers for 21 and 22, they filed extensions. So they're going to have 3 years from when they filed or 2 years from when they paid the taxes for that year, whichever is later.
So what year are we talking about here?
2021 is what is remaining. And it was 2020 and 21. Now, you still only had a maximum benefit of that same amount, but the days could be broken up more. 2021 operates a little more complex. It gives more opportunity to maximize.
Yeah.
So
3 years from
2022 is when the taxes were due, right?
Oh, from 2020. That's correct. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're talking a guy like me who always extends is October of 2025.
Yep.
And then maybe somebody else could be April of 2025.
Correct.
Okay. So people need to like do it ASAP. And if somebody's already listening to this, like, I need to do this, where do they go?
So our website, setcpros.com.
SETC Pros. What does SETC stand for?
So, shorthand for this, rather than say the credits for sick and family leave for the self-employed, a lot of the industry could just call it the self-employed tax credit. It's not in legislation called the self-employed tax credit, but it was shorter.
It's a nickname.
Yeah, it's a nickname for the tax credits.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So basically people have like 32,000 that they could potentially get.
Yes.
And it's for somebody who is self-employed in something that's like a physical job.
Yeah. Again, if somebody was able to...
What about like a contractor? A lot of people fix houses. Yeah.
Tons of them.
Yeah.
One of my favorite stories, one of the things I like to do, I'm able to see when the IRS is issuing the money, often before they are, because, we're tied in where with our processes, we pull all of our data directly from the IRS. We've simplified this as much as possible, and we're able to see, when they're getting the refund and everything. And so I'll just kind of randomly pick a name and call. And I talked to a guy down in Houston. He was getting $18,000 back. He was a contractor.
Yep.
And, he hadn't heard the news yet. And I told him, he's like, gosh, business has been slow, It was life-changing for him. I mean, absolutely life-changing. But yeah, contractors are huge. As you mentioned, realtors are a huge portion of that.
Who else are people that, listening that they're like, it might be them listening.
Absolutely. So any freelancer, gig worker, anything like that. A lot of people in the, as you mentioned, construction trades. So, all of those types of jobs, right? And then you have landscaping, all of these different things that are kind of outdoors. And then, a lot of professionals. So actually a lot of people in the financial services space.
Yeah. I wonder what these 1099 sales guys.
Yeah. All of them. Yeah. They're all eligible because again, how the formulas work, you have to have a net positive self-employment income, meaning if you wrote off all of your income, you are not going to be eligible because they have to get an income basis of what a day's worth of
work is worth to you.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so, the people that come to our website and apply over, now we're coming up on, close to 200,000 people into the site. About 50% are eligible and the other 50 are not. Now we ask good qualifying questions. And so most of those people that go all the way through and answer everything do or did earn the appropriate income. However, the ones who are disqualified typically had written all of that off. So it's impossible.
They were qualified had they made money, essentially.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. Sounds like most, like I'm even thinking me, I'm like, how am I qualified potentially?
Yeah. And it would completely depend on, very simply, were you prohibited from earning due to any qualifying events? And, I kind of gave a summary of that. But when someone goes to our website or the application, it really breaks it down. We provide a lot of information. And then we also have a link on our website, hyperlinked kind of where it's explaining to the IRS's website. And so if someone wants to do some like really thick reading, just click on that link and it breaks it down very, very well for you. But, let's say something like this, right? If you couldn't be here doing this, right? If you can't be here doing this and you would have otherwise earned, well, then you missed days, right? If you would have booked podcasts or booked an event or would have otherwise gone to an event, that would qualify for you.
Yeah, I think about what actually happened. You know, COVID was I'll say it was a blessing for me because it led me down this path of social media. But where I think I would qualify was, you know, when COVID happened, you know, I was just mainly flipping houses at the time.
Yeah.
And they literally shut it down. You couldn't go, like, first off, they had first shut the title companies and stuff down for a little bit. And then they were like, all right, they're necessary.
Yeah.
We can sell houses and stuff again. But like, I couldn't go on seller appointments anymore and go lock up deals and, you know, all that stuff. And you couldn't go and check on your properties because they didn't want you going outside and
absolutely
all this crazy stuff.
Absolutely. And it's like, if you can't go on and carry out, you know, your normal business functions.
We definitely couldn't.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, people don't remember how often too it was like, you had to quarantine, you had to do this.
Yeah.
And then we all thought it was getting better. And then I remember, you know, people forget for how long it's like, oh, new variant out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. People didn't really start getting back to normal until like maybe 2022.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And that's why when you see this, it runs through the second quarter of 21. So yeah, man, it's really, you know, it's life-changing for some people, and for other people, it's just extremely helpful.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to freaking go through it. Yeah, I mean, the blessing for me was that because I was locked up, I started doing content because I couldn't do anything else. Yep. I'm like, well, I guess I'll make videos.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it worked out.
Yeah. and, you know, and that was such a blessing for a lot of people, but you still have to look, it's like, let me give you an example, right? Let's say somebody had a normal 9 to 5, they're a W-2 employee, but then they're a DJ.
Yeah.
Right? Even though they could sit there and continue to do their normal 9 to 5, maybe they're even working at home. If they generally had DJ gigs every weekend, but they can't go have DJ gigs.
Yeah, they don't have any work because nobody's throwing a party.
Exactly. They're still eligible.
Yeah.
They're eligible because it's based on their self-employment income. And same for you. If there was any area where you would have normally made money, right, doing
going on seller appointments and different things.
Yeah. So if you had to miss that, you're absolutely going to be eligible for that. And the coolest thing about what we did, because there's so much of the population, and there's so many people. From the beginning, when we built this, we built it to be streamlined. We built it to be, how we envisioned this is we wanted to give the American public basically a vessel, a place where they could come and very quickly and easily, you know, we set it up similar to like TurboTax tax credits. It's interview style. So come in, these are the specific questions that we need to answer. And then the biggest, let's say, friction point, right, for most people is finding their tax documents from 2020 and 2021. And 2020 still matters for this because if someone had higher self-employment earnings in 20, they can use that as the income basis. So it's the greater of.
How about a guy like me, though, who has like LLCs and stuff?
Depends on how you are taxed, right? And it depends on how you are paid out of that LLC. But, you know, for people that have those questions, and they're like, they might be unsure, and they might be unsure how some of the income was categorized or how their accountant did it or what have you, or maybe they did use a software or something. We don't have to have you upload those tax documents. We got into amazing strategic partnerships where we just verify your identity and we pull all of the data we need directly from the IRS.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So we're getting hard and fast verified data.
People don't even have to submit anything to you.
Nope.
Oh,
they just have to verify their identity and go through some, you know, a little bit of know your customer checks. Yeah. And that's it. And it's all free to check. And for most of our customers, the 90-some%, they pay us nothing until they receive their money from the IRS.
And how does it work? Like, what do they end up paying?
So it depends. So for the folks that are on, let's say a straight, you know, you're going to absolutely pay nothing. Standard rate is 20%, but that's typically offset by the interest that was accrued, right? And for other folks, right? So let's say someone owes a massive back tax debt. We generally have that at a much lower rate, and then we continue to bring that down. And then if people call us, we'll just kind of work with them in doing that. And, I'll explain to you a little bit of, kind of our pricing and why we price that way, right? So to get the word out to millions and millions of people, right? It takes an unbelievable
marketing expenses,
huge marketing expenses. And so what we have to do for a lot of these, and we have the overhead costs of, all of the technology that we have set up. And then every single person who applies, we have hard costs in that, whether they're qualified or not, due to all of the technology.
Pulling data, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. And so a lot of the advertising and marketing efforts, in order to get things out to the public, they're partnership deals, right?
Yeah.
And so, we have, apps that serve gig workers with hundreds of thousands of people, very large enterprise companies. We have insurance brokerages that they put it into their downlines. And so for, most of that, or there's folks who just, come up with a very, very large ad budget. And the only way to make it work, to be able to really get this out to everyone and to be able to service everyone, is to work it on that kind of percentage basis. Because we, unlike, other companies might not touch anything under $4,000 or $5,000 refund. You can have $100 refund.
You guys will work it the same.
We process everybody.
Yeah.
Well,
for one, right? I don't know. Most people watching this show would not expect a service for free. I don't think that anybody is tripping about a split or anything like that.
Yeah.
And if they are, then you probably shouldn't watch this. So, but beyond that too, it just makes me think, you talked about ERC earlier.
Yep.
And I remember ERC was a really big thing. And just to give some background, so for me, this is the only thing I've never heard of until I talked to you, that I haven't taken advantage of. So when COVID hit, I got the PPP loan. I got an SBA loan at some crazy low interest rate.
Yep. EIDL.
Yeah, that's right. I got the ERC credit.
Yep.
And then this one, I'm like, I've never even heard of that.
Yeah.
The one thing I am curious about, entrepreneurial wise, is one thing I know is like most of those ERC companies are now like shutting down or transitioning because it's kind of just over.
Yes.
And you just said this also has a timeline of like, it's going to be over. So somebody might be watching this episode now and it's already passed.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, like, what are you guys going to be doing as entrepreneurs after this? And like, are there other credits that are upcoming that your guys are going to, like, how's that all going to play out?
Yeah, that's a great question. So couple of things. Well, I'll touch really quickly too on the ERC. So we also have ERTC, so Employee Retention Tax Credit, ERTCrefund.com. So we're still going to process those, and we have a great network of accountants until the deadline. But after that, if people are still waiting on their ERC money because it hasn't been processed yet, we have a number of lending partners that we can connect them with. So just visit ERTCrefund.com, and we can typically get people like 85% of their credit value in their pocket, like right now, if they are sick of waiting.
Kind of like a payday loan.
Yeah, exactly. And, the lenders, you have to think the people that are lending those amounts of money, like they've done their homework, they've done their due diligence, and they feel confident lending on it. So from an entrepreneurial perspective, as this program winds up, yes, we're looking at, some other credits, but at the same time, we're really a group of self-employed people, and we're really fortunate. It started off, there were basically, three of us when this started. And the me and the two other guys that we really started this company, we really kind of figured out something amazing that, I would encourage other business owners and entrepreneurs to think about, in that as we grew and expanded the company, and even though we wear different hats, we own equal parts of the company together, right? The three of us do. Mm-hmm. I serve as the CEO. One serves as a COO, Leo Drinkard. And then my partner, Freddie Mills, who's based out in Roseville, He serves as the president of the company. And this wasn't my first entrepreneurial endeavor. And it's been probably one of the most enjoyable and eye-opening things because you become a three-headed dragon at that point, right? When entrepreneurship's hard.
Yeah.
There's a lot of days. And then this company, we've scaled up. We have 13 owners now. We have 3-4 dozen folks that work on this every single day. I mean, we have 30 phone reps.
Yeah.
We've grown into a very large organization. We get thousands of customers a day. And to have running mates like that, and to have, two other highly competent people that have complementary skill sets that, if you need a day off, and especially we have families and all of that, to have someone, that's at the top of the totem pole running it, it's phenomenal. And so some of the other things that we've evolved into, we have extremely high tech capabilities. So we brought in our fourth largest equity owner, is the owner of a software development company, and our CTO is a 20-year, systems engineer. And then they've brought more along with them. So what we want to continue to do is also to look at spaces that historically are lacking in technology.
Okay.
We believe that the construction space, especially when you're talking about the transaction between, say, homeowner, small business owner, and any construction trade, that is archaic. And as an attorney who owns a law office, I probably get 3 to 4 calls per week about a dispute between a contractor and a homeowner, or a contractor and a small business owner.
Yeah.
And so we're going to look to solve that problem. We're going to look to streamline that. And then also, I can't reveal it now, but we'll come back and I will chat with you about it. But we're setting up something really great that, especially the solopreneurs and the really small businesses, kind of a centralized hub that helps them with kind of every aspect of running a business, right? And whether that be lending, insurance needs, shipping needs, but then overall education and resources, right? And we want to, really help self-employed America. I mean, you see this generation that's coming up, they want to be self-employed. They want to do this. And thankfully there's guys like you and some of your colleagues that put out this amazing content that is extremely, extremely helpful. And, we just kind of want to continue to, we've really enjoyed genuinely helping self-employed America in this project. And, we're going to continue to look for ways to do that.
That's cool. So you guys are kind of using the foundation that you built for this company to go kind of parlay it into other things. Yeah.
And, we have a customer database now in the hundreds of thousands, and that's going to continue to grow. And we want to help them. One of the things with this,
these are all business owners. Like they all need other stuff.
Yeah, and I just can't tell you enough. It's like we genuinely do it from a place of how do we best serve this population? How do we actually, not how much money can I make off of you? How do we give to you? How do we give and help you succeed? And we have like really hard and fast rule in this company, which, some of these other kind of tax credit companies get a bad rap, fly by night or what have you. But for us, I mean, our objective with everything is a 10 out of 10 in customer service, hard and fast. We beat that hard because, all the more reason we know we do want to continue to serve these customers. We do want to continue to be the type of business that they want to work with. So, we're looking forward to what the future holds.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. So I was just curious too, like, you're a lawyer, that's how you get started, but you don't necessarily need to be a lawyer to like do tax credits, right? I mean,
no, but you do have to have the requisite knowledge. So like for us, so as a licensed attorney, I can, practice before the IRS, right? Yeah. And I'm able to, unlike others, maybe digest and understand very significant nuances in the law. But we brought in CPAs, all that good stuff. We have a chief CPA, equity owner in the company, and then we utilize a very large network of that. And I would say, while the short answer is no, not necessarily. I think it would be very foolish for someone to start playing in that sandbox without a very strong foundation, because they mess something up. I mean, that's a real problem for the customer, right? That's a real life problem. And so for us, let me give you an example, right? Every so many 100 or 1,000, somebody's, rather than get a refund, they're going to get a letter from the IRS. And it might have been because they messed something up on their taxes to begin with.
Yeah.
Well, if a company doesn't have an infrastructure to deal with that and to timely do that. Now, I will tell you this though, in terms of the tax credit space. All right. With that being said, like owning the company, there is a ton of opportunity in the tax credit space for folks who want to help get the word out. Right. And if they do that responsibly, no, they don't have to have tax experience. We work with a wide number of companies, different kinds of entrepreneurs that have, maybe they have a payroll company with 50,000 1099 contractors, right?
Push them over to you guys.
Yeah. And we want them to win too. Right. Yeah. So in that regard, no, but if someone's going to start a company, I do think that they need to be a professional.
Yeah.
Real estate investors, I found a brand new way to create cash flow that's better than anything else I've ever done. It's better than rental properties, Airbnb, my flipping business, multifamily. It's the best thing we've done yet. It is building an automated wholesale business. Now you might be saying, Ryan, how do you build an automated wholesale business? Well, what if you had the same exact leads that I get every single month? What if you had a sales script that was so easy to close deals over the phone that you could do it all across the country? And what if you could sell your deals directly on the MLS without a real estate license and without having to actually own the property and getting top dollar? Well, we do that with this new method. And I made an 11-minute video where I go over how it all works, how you can start doing it today. So if you want to go see that video, go to wealthyinvestor.com, go click the case study and see what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So what have you learned from this? I mean, you guys have processed over $100 million worth of tax credits.
Yes.
And it seems like, obviously you spent the majority of your life in law school.
Yeah.
Right. And then you said you became a lawyer right when COVID hit.
Well, opened my own firm.
Yeah,
so I've been practicing. Yeah.
Yeah. So you really became an entrepreneur at like maybe the worst time.
Yeah. Well, I started another business too, right when COVID hit, responding to the market. And I took some, tough lessons in that one, but that's what prepared me for this. And that was a, swing at something national to respond to a need in the market.
Yeah.
And that's the fun of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah. So, I mean, like now, you have so many partners and stuff now and processing hundreds of thousands of, applicants and things.
Yeah.
Like what has been some of the things you've learned?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So a few things, right? One, people, as you want to grow and expand, are the most important aspect of growing and scaling a business. I don't care how smart somebody thinks they are, how talented someone is. If you don't have a good team around you, and like I mentioned before, with my co-founders and how we operate this, you're just going to spin your wheels. I think one of the skills and I think lessons that a lot of people can take from what I've learned. Okay, so earlier in life, if something wasn't going my way, whether it be in business or whatever, I would think like I'm being punished, I'm an idiot, I'm any of these number of other things. But really, I developed a significant amount of faith during my entrepreneurial journey, not just in this, but it was, trying and it not working, or, falling flat on your face, thinking that you royally screwed up your life and all of these things. And you get kind of, biblically speaking, put in the wilderness.
Yeah.
And it was through that I got my bearings of really how to function as a human and how I interact with the world and how I interact with trials and tribulations and challenges. And so in this business, fortunately, I had grown enough. And if something wasn't working or something, you're trying to go this way and you keep hitting a wall, it's not you're being punished, you're an idiot, you're being redirected.
Yeah.
You're being pushed down this other path, or maybe this person isn't the right person you want to work with. Don't force it. Or so I think it's really how to read the game board of not just business, but life, right? And when you kind of can catch that flow, if you have an unshakable belief in whatever someone believes in, call it the universe, Tony Robbins calls it like grace, right? Some people call it God, but whatever name someone wants to put on that, if you have an unwavering belief that is always looking out for your best interest, and everything that is happening for you, and you just have the unshakable belief, if you continue to operate morally, if you do the right thing when nobody is looking, that will guide you to unbelievable places. And I mean, I'm sitting here with you right now. And a lot of people would think that's pretty unbelievable. But I think, that's the biggest takeaway for me in my entrepreneurial journey is finding that and learning how to ride that wave and being able to, despite whatever, how hard the rain feels at the time, that you understand that you are being guided to somewhere better and great once you find it.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I'll say is throughout my most difficult times was where I've had the most growth. James chapter 1 talks about that too. You reference the wilderness and Moses and all these things. And, James just talks about, perseverance, finishing its work in you so that you become mature and complete. And it's like, nobody likes to go through painful things.
No,
I've got to find somebody that's like, sweet, I'm losing money, I'm getting sued, everyone hates me, the business is falling apart, customers are mad, people are quitting, we're running out of money, this is great. Nobody says that. After you get out of it, you look back and you look at what it then forced you to do, and you're like, okay, well, I guess don't do that again. Don't hire that person. Don't do this so quickly. Don't, whatever, right? Like success is really just avoiding the wrong things.
Yeah.
It's not even like, oh, I just hit all the right things. It's like, no, I tested all the things.
Yeah.
I stopped doing all the wrong things. And now I just focus on a couple of the right things and I just do them over and over again.
Absolutely. And I think that for anyone considering entrepreneurship or, when they're experiencing similar, like all of the stuff that you just named, because it kind of, sometimes it feels like it's happening all at once. I just hope that people can, as quickly as possible, appreciate the value in it. And sometimes you have to go through something that feels catastrophic and then realize the sky isn't what you think is catastrophic.
Yeah.
And then when you see the sky doesn't actually fall and somehow, some way your life got better, right?
Yeah.
Then maybe you start to get your bearings in that and start to appreciate that. And I think so many people give up or quit or think that they're not good at it because they're encountering those things, but they're there, as you said, for growth.
Yeah. Well, so here's something that I want to point out too. And I'll let you answer the question. I'll kind of talk about my journey with it too. But you said that it felt like you were in the wilderness as of just a couple of years ago. And that's what led you down faith and pursuing God.
Yep.
And clearly you guys have already, during the last few years, built this company up to what it is today.
Yeah.
So clearly it's like, all right, it's not as if all of a sudden the company failed and you had nothing and, it was while this thing has been being built. And like, even for me, the last 2023 and 2024 were really hard years in my life and my business because the real estate market was tough. You have a couple of business failures. You're not really sure what's going to work. You're testing all these things. And so I had to deal with so many things. And 2025 is a lot better. But kind of my point with this is people would look at the last few years and be like, oh, you went through some hard things. Like I wouldn't have known that. Right. And I'm like, no, it's like super hard. And I'm just curious for you, what were some of the things that were so difficult that made you feel like you were in the wilderness?
Okay. So for me, it really started back more, in COVID times, because like I said, first big case, first year was great, hired a bunch of people. And then I invested very heavily into basically there was a massive need for wills, power of attorney, medical power of attorney, and no one could get them. And I noticed that there were rapidly changing notary laws. And long story short, I created a solution to get people these documents and that needed them, right?
Yeah.
People in nursing homes couldn't have a lawyer and witnesses and all of this.
Because of COVID.
Yes, but they started rapidly changing notary laws, and that would allow people to notarize and witness documents virtually for the first time in human history for these types of documents.
Yeah.
And so, I went for it, and I had, folks calling me from pretty big companies, marketing companies, and they're saying, hey, everyone needs this. And I hadn't really fell flat on my face yet ever, like I would try and do. Don't get me wrong, I had, growth in life, but generally if I went for something big, I would accomplish it.
Yeah.
And then, hiring all the people at the firm and doing all these things. And I just, thinking I have my bet hedged, and personally guaranteed an investment from a friend that was substantial. I mean, well into the six figures.
Yeah.
And, lo and behold, some of the people on the team that had critical parts, especially on the tech side, were not honest about how far their progress was and how much runway we actually had. And I had to shut it down, and I had to eat all of that.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, I had to, people that you bring in and give opportunities to, understandably, I'm not upset with them, but they start jumping ship, and you figure, hey, they're going to earn over here, on this. So all of a sudden, next thing you know, I turn around, it's post-COVID, massive liabilities, having to, figure out how to make, 50, 60,000 a month to survive.
Yep.
And it was tough. And then, my wife and I, without getting too personal, we lost a child pretty far along right in that time. And just thing after thing after thing, had my brother pass away, and just bang, 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 right? Just getting punched in the face with life. And it was a scary time. It was a dark time for me. But it was during that time that, when you, some people would call it like an ego death, right? You're like stripped down to nothing.
Yeah.
And, it kind of isolates you when something like that. And I still had to show up. I'm still showing up winning murder trials. And you know what I mean? And,
because your law firm's the only thing making money at that point.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even though earning a lot, I have employees, my wife and I eat from that. And so you're still having to, and then I incurred massive liabilities that I did not previously have from just totally going for it.
Yeah.
Right after that. And then it was, I had to pick myself up, and I had to figure out, and luckily I had an amazing wife, and a lot of people, aren't that lucky. To support me. And then also, she's a trial attorney too. So, it's nice, even though you feel kind of dead on the inside, and you're walking in and you have to go be Superman in court, having her with you certainly helped out a lot. But, I just kept believing, man. And I just kept talking to God, and I just kept, and I could feel, I was like, there is more. I've had wonderful success as a trial attorney. Wonderful success. And I really worked at it, young. And I've tried some crazy cases and gotten some really good outcomes very young. But I just kept feeling like there was more, right? Like there was more for me. There was more for me to like give to the world and do. And I didn't know what it was. And I actually went through probably like a 6-month kind of thing in my head. I'm like, am I like shunning my blessings? Like I'm blessed to be very good at this, right?
Yeah. Why don't I just stay content doing this?
Yeah. And I really had a hard time with that. And I mean, really,
I was going to say your friends who are lawyers and stuff got to be questioning, why are you doing all this other stuff? Like, dude, your law firm's great. Why risk, going all in over here? Look, I told you shouldn't have did that.
Yes. And of course, and to have another project blow up in my face, everyone's like, "Is Ryan okay?"
Well, and also lawyers by default are the most like risk averse. Mm-hmm. Like your whole job is to mitigate risk.
Yeah. And I just luckily just wired just a little differently. And you got to make it, right? I was at a place, and you keep counting on this case to cash in or that case or what have you. And I'm just like, when this opportunity came in front of me and I saw, what I can do for other people, and then the upside, I said, it was just everything inside of me told me I have to do this.
Yeah.
And I told myself, and I promised myself, I would have zero regret about what I do with this opportunity. And, and here we are. And, 9 figures later in other people's pockets, it feels absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And it is, because when I was before I opened my own practice, and, I'm a young lawyer, I'm working, for some guys that were pretty successful. And I got to do a lot of big things early because it was a small firm, but, they were doing big things and I was their guy. And they gave me a long leash. And man, just in my personal life, and, she and I weren't together at the time, at all. She and I, I'd never been together. So, man, I just kept hitting my head off the wall, and externally I'm doing great. I'm, on paper, a lot of my law school classmates, they're not even allowed out of the office, and I'm out here, winning trials.
Yeah.
And I just was like, there's gotta be more to life than this. There's gotta be more to life than this. And that's when I really started kind of going back towards God. And I had a pretty wide, subject matter that I would study. I would study multiple religions and schools of thought, and just trying to take in information and understand. I just was so disconnected from myself, you know? And that started me on the journey. And then I started, you can kind of feel that. You can feel that energy. You can feel your spirit. You start getting some guidance, and then, just kind of led me down this path now.
Yeah.
But I was in the infancy of that, right? I was starting to really believe, because I was raised, I was raised in an area where, everyone goes to church. Everyone goes to church, but
It was more cultural.
yeah, but it was you didn't connect. How I was taught, God, I didn't, it was just believe so that you're not afraid of burning for all eternity.
Yeah.
That was it. And then, so,
Check a box.
Yeah, you get older, you start studying philosophy, you start seeing the world, and it was just I don't know what it is, right? And then, as a young man, you're just trying to get to a place, I got caught in that. When I just get to here, I'll be happy. When I just get to here, I'll be happy. And I just kind of disregarded anything that, I was just I'm going to get to there. And anything that interfered with that was I could cast aside.
Yeah.
And just not the way to live.
No.
Not the way to live. So, it's been everything for me. If I wouldn't have made that kind of transition, right, I think I'd be stuck in the same patterns that a lot of other people are stuck in, where they're just trying to acquire more things and a nicer car and a bigger house and, another partner or what have you. And there's no limit to how much you can chase that stuff. And it's, accolades, this, that. It's not fulfilling at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was for me, an incredible journey, and to be able to take that now and take that energy and take those lessons and then go into entrepreneurship and go into business and be that man.
Yeah.
It feels great. It feels incredible.
No, I mean, it's an amazing story. And I think for so many people listening, it's a relatable story, because everybody has failed in business. Everybody has felt this void of man, I accomplished my dreams. Now what?
Yeah.
And it's a tough place, because when people don't find Jesus, it's you just keep searching. Mm-hmm. You just keep going. You're just all right, maybe the next car will do it. Maybe the next house will do it. Maybe the next vacation, the next promotion, the next dollar, the next goal. And it's it's never enough.
It isn't. And I think too, when people are doing that, you stop when you're pursuing those things. It's you forget to just like yourself. And because you're letting other people kind of dictate who you should be. And, you're wanting to get to this place. And I don't know, around that same time, I just felt the feeling that I had is I thought that I hated myself and I didn't know why. And in hindsight, I was just disconnected from my true self. And I think for a lot of people, they go around blind and they don't realize how disconnected from their true self. And you have to love yourself, and you know, I mean, truly love yourself, and not from a way that you make any apologies for it or anything like that. Like, you have to wholeheartedly love yourself and appreciate yourself, because if you do believe that a part of you, the part of you that actually matters, right, is effectively a fractal of God, right, is divine.
Yeah.
Then you're hating that.
Yeah.
And when you can find, take it philosophically, right? Descartes talks about dualism, right? Having two minds. And when I studied that, I minored in philosophy at the University of Illinois in undergrad. And I didn't, I understood for the purpose of their teaching me in this, but I didn't really get it. And I came to realize so many philosophers and poets and religions, and they're all talking about the same thing. They're all trying to get you to the same place. And it's not letting your human mind just run on you and go to these negative places and disbelief and all that, right? And everything biblically, it's like, cast your anxieties aside, have no worry, have faith the size of a mustard seed, right? But I don't think people necessarily get that. And when you have that unwavering, unshakable belief that is real, and that is who you are, and that is what everyone is made up, and this is what this all is, this experience of being a human, and wholeheartedly believe that, when you do hit challenges, when you do hit things, as we kind of talked about, you can be grateful for them.
Mm-hmm. Which is odd.
It is, but it's being anywhere else. I was just having a very random conversation with a gentleman. We just came off a media tour down in Florida doing some of the news channels. And right now he's an older gentleman waiting for his Social Security. It's in process, but he doesn't have a home. And randomly stopped, and I'm having a conversation with him. And I told him, I was like, about when I was younger, before this evolution, if anything ever didn't go my way, I thought I was being punished. And I would sit there and I would try and think of all of the things that I should potentially be punished for. And then that becomes, and he told me, he's like, that's what I think. And he's sitting there with crutches on a bench. He's got no home. Yeah. And I'm like, no, you're not being punished. You're either being redirected or taught something to evolve, right? Yeah. For your soul to evolve. And I don't know, man, for me, and if that resonates with anyone, that was one of the most significant things, because when you think every time something's not going your way, and then you think less about yourself, and then you get down on yourself and you start to hate yourself, it makes it very, very hard to make forward progress in life. And that stuff's going to manifest on the people around you, project on the people around you, and all bad, man. And once I got, over that hump, life-changing. Yeah.
No, I'm with you. I mean, I always think about this too, because originally my career didn't play out the way I wanted. I was a professional baseball player, thinking that's going to be my whole life. Yep. All I trained for, kind of like you being a lawyer. And I get there, then I get released, and it doesn't work out. And, you're like, man, this is all a failure. Yeah. And it's an identity. It's an ego. It's this thing. And now with the benefit of hindsight, over a decade later, you're like, okay, I see what the plan actually was.
Yeah.
And, a couple of verses I always think about. One is Romans 8:28, in all things God works for the good of those who love him, have been called according to his purpose. And it's like, in all things, he works for our good, but only if we love him and we've been called according to his purpose. So it's a conditional promise. And so a lot of people would look at promises and say, oh, okay, cool. But it's like, make sure you read the fine print,
yeah,
because it's a conditional promise. And a lot of things in the Bible are conditional. Mm-hmm. If you do these things, then this will happen. And then even, I was reading this the other day about Jesus healing one of the blind guys. And his parents said the same thing you were saying, or not his parents, but the Pharisees. They're like, why was this man born blind? Like, what sins did he commit? What sins did his parents commit? Like, why was he born this way? And Jesus is like, neither. Like, he was born this way so that I could be here this very moment and heal him, and glory would come from this moment.
Yep.
He was born for this moment right here, not for any sin or anything else. And it's interesting because it's like anybody could have a very tough life to this point and be an outcast and be a failure and be whatever. And it's like, it could change like that.
It absolutely can. And I just in my own journey, I had, and my parents did the best, absolutely, that they could. Father passed away when I was fairly young, and but they both had a lot of stuff in childhood. And I used to wonder in my early adulthood, and you look at people that have it kind of easier and easier to like put themselves through. They're not putting themselves through school. They're not having to worry about supporting themselves as a young man. They're not having to worry about these things. And it would always be like, why me? And then all any other things that came up. And finally, I got to a place in life where I am so unbelievably grateful that I was born exactly me and had exactly the path that I did. And even the extreme difficulties that I kind of hit on over, let's say, the past 5 years, I genuinely, wholeheartady believe that I didn't go through that just for the purpose of me growing, but I have an ability, I'm a speaker. That's one thing that I'm particularly good at. And I want to share with people those moments and teach them and give my own experiences of going through these unbelievably difficult times. And I do believe that part of the reason that I went through that was so that I can help others. I do it constantly. We did a lot of criminal defense work. I just tapered that down. There was a time we had 260 active criminal defense cases going on at one time in our firm. And I'm only tapering that down because I'm very focused on entrepreneurship, and you have to be in court a lot on criminal defense cases. And I just can't make the commitment. I'm all over the place right now. And I can't tell you how many hours I have spent talking to guys, my clients that are sitting in jail, sitting in prison, going through unbelievably difficult times that, but for my journey, I wouldn't have the words to offer them. And I just, one called me, my wife actually saved him, young man, kept hitting his head off the wall, drug stuff. And, but selling a little bit to support his habit, but it was a second strike, buddy. And, thought he was going to do some serious time. And my wife really did some amazing things and got him into rehab.
Yeah.
And, he had just had a kid too. And, they're doing a lot better. So he calls me from the rehab facility. We have like a check-in with the court. And he starts telling me about these things when I came to see him 8 months ago in jail, and talking to him about these sorts of things and counseling him, not anything to do with the law.
Yeah.
And
just human to human.
Yeah. And it's so meaningful. And I've had the good fortune that I've had so many opportunities like that, particularly with people in that, population, that I've been able to see that the, trials and tribulations and lessons of my life, that I've been able to pass on knowledge to those guys and gals, the tremendous impact it's had. And we've had so many people tell us years later, like, you completely changed my life. And it's amazing.
Makes it all worth it.
Yeah, man.
Well, dude, I know you gotta get out of here, and so our time's pretty limited, but man, it's been awesome hearing your story. It's awesome what you're doing, helping entrepreneurs too with the tax credits. And I think many people listening to this qualify. So if you're watching this right now and it's before October of 2025, then go apply. And where do they go again?
setcpros.com.
setcpros.com. We will link it down below. And Ryan, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me, Ryan, man. This has been a blast, and I'll be back to see you in the future, I'm sure.
There we go. Cool. Guys, make sure you're subscribed. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.